I have a family. My parents live here. I have 3 children. I love this country. I had 2 relations on my mother's side of the family that came over on the Mayflower. My family was all over the Revolutionary War in 1776 and in the founding of Texas. I mean, I really bleed red, white, and blue. I know we've been the greatest country in history. I know we're special. Our Bill of Rights and Constitution is wonderful. And I'm so sick of watching offshore banks with slick PR firms who know how to lie to the public, gutting the country, openly announcing at Davos they're setting up a world government. George Soros and all these guys laughing, saying, I'm having a great crisis. We're finally going to bring down the U.S. and set up world government. The Pentagon totally works for them. They're openly setting up a police state to rob all of us. And I've still got to argue with people about whether I'm a conspiracy theorist or not. I mean, Bob Chapman, does it ever make your head spin to have the thousands of government documents, statements, reports that we cover, that we link to? More news today about deaths from the swine flu vaccine, people getting paralyzed, medical doctors say, yes, it's causing neurological problems. They had to stop it in 76. For a year, they denied deaths were happening in 76. And people finally said, hell no, and they admitted it. I mean, how many times do we have to be lied to? How many times do we have to be right? Again, I'm not trying to toot our horn here today, but I want to make a big deal out of this because it is a big deal. We have the track record. We have been right. We do our homework. We bust our ass. I mean, Bob, I remember you, however many years ago it was, you can remind me, and I'm reading your forecast or having you on. I've been interviewing you for like 8 years. I remember you when the stock market hit 14,000 saying, get out now. And you can remind me of the date in a moment. And then when the stock market went way down last year, you said it's going to run back up in the summer and fall. And then I forget when you said it was going to plunge down again. Let's hear your forecast now. And I remember you calling all these things accurately. And you've pointed out, because you're not an egomaniac, and neither are other economists we have on, you've pointed out that Bob Chapman's about 95% accurate, and that the mainstream media is over 80% inaccurate on the financial shows. They're not inaccurate because they're stupid. They're just as smart as Bob Chapman. In fact, in their own personal lives, it's come out that their portfolios are the opposite of what they're saying. In many cases, what they tell their viewers, Kramer and others, that they know what they're doing. They know they're lying. They know they're spinning. They know they're just manipulating. So you're just telling the truth because that's what you do. As you know, that's your business model. That's your political model. They work for the system, so they lie. I mean, explain to people your predictions, and they're all in the newsletters. Go over all the things you've called, and then where we are right now and where you see us going.
Well, I can go back to, I called the top of the real estate market in October of 1989, and I sold my house in Malibu that month, as a matter of fact. And I said, it's over, and they're going to get down considerably. Well, that happened. And the elitists had an opportunity between 1990 and 92 to straighten the entire economy out by having a strong recession. They refused to do that. Japan, at the same time, was in a terrible fix, and that went on for 20 years. And we called the top of the market there at 42,000. It eventually went down to about 5,000, and now it's trading a little bit higher. But that was some of the things in the old days that, if you want to call them, that I called. We even called the rally in gold in 1984-5, and then again in 1986. I think one of the best things I ever called was the increase in interest rates in 1992, where we said the 30-year would go to 8 1/16, and we hit it right on the head. Then, of course, the dot-com boom came during the late 90s, and I just stood aside and said, I'm not going to go into that madness. And in April, the second week, of 2000, we called the top on the stock market. And then in June, we went in big time into the gold and silver shares and coins because we felt this was the beginning of another bull market, and the first phase was just completed. We went from $252 an ounce on gold to 1,070 intraday. And so we made that call. We called the 9/11 type of event in November before it happened, within 33 days. We called Iraq and Iran, the conflicts. We called the top of the stock market at 14,000. We said it would go to either 7,200 or 6,600. It went to 6,600, and we thought it would go back to 8,500, and it did. In fact, it went to 10,000. We didn't pick the top on that, but we were essentially and fundamentally correct. Now I think we're looking at a return. I can't tell you the length of time right now, but we're looking at a return of the Dow downward. The time frame, hard to say, but at the moment it looks like we should see a correction down to 78 to 8,800, down somewhere in that area. Gold and silver are going to keep right on going up. Silver will break out finally from its old high, probably by the end of the year. And gold, of course, is broken out. Probably next stop is 1250, and then 1650, and then 2500 to 3000. And that 2500 only reflects official inflation since 1980. Real inflation would put gold at $6,700. And so these are the general predictions. Incidentally, real estate's going to continue to go down because of the types of loans that are still out there and the loss of jobs. The fact that for a year the government has been writing subprime loans again, and that won't possibly bottom out until 2013, and goodness knows how long it's going to bump along the bottom. And so that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at probably a sideways movement on unemployment for several months, and then it's going to get worse again unless they dump in, and they'll need $2 trillion. And if they don't put in $2 trillion, it isn't going to work again. And so these are some of the things that I'm looking forward on.
Okay. I want to take some calls before you leave us. And we got Chris Pinto next hour getting into some information dealing with Dan Brown's book, and they're saying it's inaccurate. They've made the definitive films on the real secret societies, the Illuminati, and how they operate. Whole separate area we're going to be discussing coming up the next hour. But while we've got you, Bob, I'm shaken up by this. It's one thing to know they're going to kill the dollar and know it a decade ago and to see their plans. It's another thing to now be here in that zone where they're getting ready to stage new wars, new terror attacks. They're setting up incredible police states. I've got mainstream news articles where high-level media executives with no criminal record, known for being pure gentlemen, get up in first class and walk in front of someone who's asleep, and the stewardess yells at them and then has them arrested under the Patriot Act, and they're charged for making an ugly face. That's in the FBI affidavit. I see these articles every week now where people argue with a stewardess, so they're going to prison under the Patriot Act. I see where they're charging marijuana dealers with it. I mean, people with a half ounce. I mean, they're arresting people selling eggs on street corners in the countryside. I mean, they're SWAT teaming Amish. I mean, it's entering a vortex of evil. $100,000 fines for garage sales. I mean, I can't even believe how insane. They just came out and admitted what I knew 14 years ago, but now completely declassified, that most TV is run by the Pentagon and the White House, and then the entire scripts are funded and written. I mean, we already knew it watching TV, but to be anti-family, pro-death, all these shows where they're unplugging old people, the heroes are killing people on the shows. They're convincing old women not to have cancer surgery to save money for young people. I mean, as if the pie can't grow. As if global taxes are being announced. Schwarzenegger's saying you got a thumbprint to buy guns. He's now saying they're going to ban 40-inch TVs because they're bad for the environment. They use too much energy. I mean, all the carbon taxes, all the control, worse than the Soviet Union. When I say that, I mean, it is. I mean, Bob, it's off the charts. But before we do that, what will this look like as they incrementally, and like you said, knock the dollar down, then bring it up a little bit? You know, knock it down, bring it up a little bit, knock it down, bring it up a little bit, because that's the graph. And as the world now shifts with new purchases to majority euros and yens and yans and other currencies, they've now left the dollar. That's the headlines in all the financial papers. So they've begun. It's like the HAL 9000 in 2001 Space Odyssey, where he's going, "I'm afraid, Dave," and the astronaut's turning the computer's memory off, and they're turning it off. He's gone down about 10 of the memory cubes. He's got about 50 left, and the HAL 9000, which is America, is going, "Daisy, Daisy." This is happening.